Stocks climb with Nifty scaling to a new high on the back of a big gain in the Dow overnight and also fueled by strong India GDP growth in the second quarter. Mid-caps lead the rally.
India's GDP grows 7.6% in the second quarter of the fiscal, beating estimates and leading economists to revise up their forecasts for the full year. Most, however, still see a more sober performance in the second half.
Ultratech scoops up Kesoram's cement assets for 7,500 crores in a deal funded by issue of shares. The transaction will bring 11 million tons of capacity into Ultratech's fold at an attractive price, while Kesoram will pay its debt.
JSW inks a 35-65 joint venture agreement with MG Motor parent SAIC of China to foray into electric vehicles in India. JSW will assume majority ownership of the venture in 2 years.
And strong auto sales so far in November. Bajaj Auto sees robust 31% YOY growth in sales, while M&M registers 32% growth in passenger vehicle sales. Tractor sector growth in low single digits for M&M and Escorts due to unseasonal rains hitting the demand. Hello and welcome. You've tuned into Business Lunch on this Friday afternoon, and at lunch our market is in full gusto. So Pavitra, it's a wrong day to wear red actually. The market is in great sentiment, not the global cues, Indian, macro cues, both combined together is really giving that lift to the market, and it's a broad-based rally that we are seeing today. So Nifty 50 currently also holding on and just shy of its all-time high levels. So it's a record-smashing day for our market. Let's take stock of what's happening right now. 20,276 levels on Nifty 50, gains of close to 150 points. Sensex 2 gaining over 500 points at the moment. Bank Nifty, that is showing a slight bit of outperformance to the key indices, 0.87% up, and mid-caps, they are the ones which are really surging ahead, over 1% gain on that. And a lot of mid-caps really seeing a lot of huge amount of interest and gains coming in, and that's also spurring up the strength of the market, advances way above the declines. Now on my screens at the moment in terms of percentage gainers, PSU NTPC is topping the chart, ITC is not behind, and from the banking pack, Axis Bank is one of the top gainers in the percentage terms. And still sulking in trade with a contra call is Wipro, the top loser on Nifty 50 with over 1% drop at the moment. Pavitra.
You know, ever since the morning, it was pretty clear that we are going to hit these kinds of levels today. You have everything working in our favor, whether it's the GDP, the exit poll, the global cues are positive. We got that very solid handover. So whichever way you look at it, this has been a very, very solid session. You know, for this month, if you take a look at some of the sectoral indices, you have the real estate pack, which has rallied 20%. You have the PSU pack, which is up around 12-13%, and the auto index also, which is seeing a similar rise. So it's been a very, big move that's come through in some of these pockets. Today, what's doing specifically well is a lot of the PSU. So names like NTPC, Power Grid, PFC, REC, these stocks just completely flying off today. And it's held like that ever since the morning as well. The consumption pack is also looking quite hot today. So whether it's an ITC, HUL, Britannia, all of these trading with good gains. You do have a little bit of underperformance coming in from tech, not just today, but this entire month and this week as well. And I just want to mention that a lot of the new listings that we saw yesterday, of course, crazy moves over there. Today, you're seeing a bit of a correction come through. So whether it's Tata Tech or Gandhar Oil, they're seeing around 6% in terms of a cut. Flare, by the way, is the new listing today. That also saw a solid listing. People are throwing money at anything new that hits the street. It's a 55% premium. It's come off only slightly from that level. So that's the shape of the market. We're going to talk more about this. But first up, let's talk about that big macro cue, which is, something that's really aided this up move that we've seen in the market as well. So India's GDP grew around 7.6% in the second quarter. This is higher than the CNBC-TV18 poll of 7.03%, and it's way above the Reserve Bank's forecast as well of 6.5%. So Lata is here with all of the numbers and the analysis. Lata.
Well, it's not just that it is an upside surprise. It is the extent of the upside surprise. We haven't had 7.6% in a very long time in a normal quarter. I mean, we have it year on year. For instance, we had 13% and 20% when we were over a negative year. But for a normal quarter to generate this kind of growth is perhaps takes you back to the 2004 to 2008 period. And the second biggest thing, which of course everyone's been pointing out, is that this is manufacturing led. Agriculture has been a no-show. It's just 1.2, and I think that was expected because of late rains, early rains, badly distributed. But let me just pause a little bit on the fact that services did not contribute. We've always been a services-led economy, but that's been a bit under the weather. I'll come to that in just a bit. You know, trade, hotels, a very big sector which generates jobs. Trade, hotels, transport and communication has done only 4.3%, and we may have to worry about that. But what we must definitely celebrate is this huge growth in manufacturing or industry and every aspect of it. You know, manufacturing is 13.9. I'm very sure I have not seen this number except, you know, going back to 2004 to 2008 period. Likewise, construction, 13.3. I mean, that's big. Power and utilities, that is electricity, 10.1, mining, 10. So anything connected with industry is in double digits, and manufacturing at 14% is really huge. Now, the pluses obviously is that the economy needs to be treated as a faster growing economy, and you have seen across the board upgrades. The biggest one comes from State Bank. State Bank was already full year at 6.7. They've upped it to 7%. And Kotak is almost there at 7%, Citi at 6.7. So we are now a 7% economy. That's very big. You know, there are not that many comparisons in the world. But the fact that it is standing on manufacturing is what is important. So today and for the days to come, please take note of all the capex stocks, you know, the L&T varieties, the cement varieties, construction stocks. You know, all those are the ones that the bulls may favor. Now for the brief minuses, consumption. 3.1% is a bit of a worry. You know, ultimately production grows only when consumption also gives you that boost. Government can give you that boost, which is what it has done. Capex was very strong. Government private final consumption expenditure went up by 12%. So that was very strong. But, you know, a 7% economy cannot be supported by a 9% fiscal deficit. We have a 5.9 in the center and 3% in the states. That is definitely a recipe for for troubled times, which means this growth has come on a bit of steroids of fiscal deficit, which has to be weaned away. So we can't expect replication. The other thing we should be very careful about, do you remember how the corporate EBITDA performed this quarter? Almost everyone had not a strong revenue growth, but a 30% EBITDA growth. So, you know, that is because a year ago, because of the Ukraine war, all raw materials were expensive. Now they've all become cheaper, and that explained the improvement in EBITDA and the improvement in margins. That also can't be replicated quarter after quarter. Already you can see that in the CRB index. So, you know, we must sober our expectations and not expect 7% plus, but definitely we have to up our expectations about the Indian economy and the Indian corporate sector. This is a new growth pace, no taking away from it.
All right. Thanks, Lata, for putting all those numbers into perspective. And of course, the GDP growth has spread cheers in the market, but consumption growth being so low needs to be watched out for. Now, another big cue for the market that they will keep an eye out for, and the focus are the exit polls for the states of Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Telangana, Chhattisgarh, as well as Mizoram. So my colleague Parishit Luthra is joining me for a complete roundup and the sense that we are getting. Parishit.
Well, all eyes on Sunday now when the counting will happen. But most exit polls are predicting an edge for the Congress party in Chhattisgarh and Telangana. Of course, any victory here would be a shot in the arm for the Congress party. BJP, for that matter, is leading exit polls in MP and Rajasthan, but the election could be a close fight. especially in Madhya Pradesh. Some polls have predicted a cliffhanger. Rajasthan BJP President CP Joshi has said that BJP will win 135 seats and will form the government in the state. Chhattisgarh Deputy CM T.S. Singh Deo has earlier today said that Congress will form the government once again in Chhattisgarh and the Chief Minister will be decided once the counting is over. Let me also speak about Mizoram. Here, most exit polls are predicting a hung assembly and the ruling MNF may not actually cross the halfway mark, and the opposition Zoram People's Movement may not cross the halfway mark either. Now, why are these polls important? Well, it will give us a sense of what has really mattered to the voter this time around. According to different polls we've been seeing, it seems that local issues, welfare schemes offered by different parties, their manifestos have really mattered to the voter. Not national issues or polarization, but it is very, very basic day-to-day issues that have mattered to the voter in this election. And this is what most pollsters are saying at this juncture. Exit polls can often be wrong as well, so we can add that caveat. But all these 5 states together send 83 members to the Lok Sabha, so you can understand the significance.
All right, Pariksha, thanks a lot for getting us all of those details. That is what the exit polls have thrown up for now. But we do need to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to bring you another important story. JSW inks a joint venture agreement with MG Motor's Chinese parent SAIC to improve the electric mobility ecosystem here in India. So we're going to bring you all of the details in just a bit. News for the Indian automotive sector. The JSW Group and China's SAIC Motor, MG Motors, this parent company, have announced a strategic joint venture that will focus mainly on green mobility. So Parikshit is back with us to take us through the details. Parikshit, take us through the details of the joint venture.
Well, JSW Group, which has been very interested in entering the electric mobility segment, will be picking up a 35% stake in this joint venture with SAIC Motor. Now, SAIC Motor is a Chinese state-owned company, the largest producer of automobiles in China by volume. Just for example, they produced about 482,000 vehicles in the month of September. So this is a big Chinese company which wanted to make a big entry into the India market with MG Motor. MG Motor's parent is SAIC. So this is a JV between JSW and SAIC to drive MG Motor India's operations here domestically. So what will this lead to? One, it will give both companies a lot of scale. There will be a huge expansion of capacity over the next few years, a big localization drive that JSW is very interested in. So greater localization of electric vehicle components in India and launching more electric vehicle and alternate fuel options for the India market and charging infrastructure as well. So we believe that JSW Group really wants to make a big mark in the EV space. As far as the contours of this JV goes, we are yet to know the exact amount of money that JSW Group would be putting in, but we know from MG Motor and from their first presentation made about their intention to divest stake in India, they want to raise about 5,000 crore by divesting majority stake in the company, eventually go for an IPO in a few years and make this a Indian company. So this is an Indianization of MG Motor, which is going on as per SAIC's strategy. This JV between JSW and SAIC will take at least 2 to 3 months to take effect.
All right, that's a new foray by JSW Group. Thanks, Parikshit, for giving us all those details. Now, after unseasonal rains destroyed the crops and plantations across Maharashtra earlier this particular week, well, another spell of rainfall has caused significant damage to crops in the state of Gujarat, Rajasthan and Maharashtra. Sandhya Gora has been tracking the developments closely, gets us all the details. Tell us, Sandhya.
The unseasonal rains and hailstorm continue to lash parts of Maharashtra, Rajasthan and Gujarat. In fact, IMD has also issued a similar warning for Madhya Pradesh as well. Now, talking about the damage which this unprecedented weather event has caused. Now, talking about the loss estimates, experts say that talking about Maharashtra, Gujarat and Rajasthan, the estimated losses as of now are to the tunes of 3,000 crore rupees. And in fact, onion alone, the losses are to the tunes of over 500 crore rupees. Other crops which are affected are pulses, papaya, banana, pomegranate, grape orchards, mango plantations, pulses, cotton, soya bean and other key crops. talking about Maharashtra government, if we talk about early estimates, Maharashtra government says that crop spread over 60,000 hectares of land is already destroyed. The state government has directed the local authorities to start conducting panchnamas and surveys to get the exact loss estimate. And also, the state government has assured the farmers that they will be fairly compensated for their loss. But remember, when a similar episode took place in the month of March, which resulted into massive loss, and not just in Maharashtra but across country. And at that time, the losses were over 18,000 crore rupees. At that time, Maharashtra government similarly promised fair compensation to the farmers, but the farmers of Maharashtra are still waiting for that compensation. Talking about the current weather situation, similar warnings are already issued for Madhya Pradesh also, and Maharashtra continue to witness these unseasonal rains and hailstorms.
All right, Sandhya, thanks a lot for bringing us all of the details on this very important story. That is the situation in Maharashtra with these unseasonal rains and the damage that they've caused. But let's also move on and talk about the COP28 Climate Summit, which is currently underway in Dubai. And this year's UN Climate Conference marks the 28th gathering to confront global warming ever since the first conference was held in 1995. Now, in a surprising move, the delegates have agreed to launch a long-awaited fund to pay for damage from climate-driven storms as well as drought. So the EU, UK, US and several others also immediately announced contributions totaling around $400 million for poor countries to be able to combat the impact of climate change that we've seen. More from the summit, then Prime Minister Narendra Modi will also be addressing the gathering. He's also scheduled to participate in 3 other high side-level meetings as well. And the leaders also gathered for a picture as a sign of unity as they vow to strengthen their efforts towards climate-friendly activity. So those are the visuals coming through from the COP28 summit in Dubai right now.
All right, so that's quite an important summit there for climate consciousness across the world and to take steps in that direction. While you digest that, we'll slip into a short breather on Business Lunch. But when we return, we'll get you the latest coming in from the war in West Asia after the truce comes to an end. Stay tuned to Business Lunch. Welcome back. You're watching Business Lunch. Now, getting you latest updates from the conflict in West Asia. Well, the Israeli airstrikes and artillery fire resumed in Gaza after the 7-day truce expired this morning. Now, the Israel military said that Hamas violated the operational pause and fired towards Israeli territory. International mediators, including Qatar, Egypt and the United States, have, however, pushed for another extension of this pause. Last night, 30 more Palestinian prisoners were released by Israel, while Hamas released another 14 prisoners, taking the total captives returned to over 250. Well, we've come to the end of this edition of Business Lunch. It's Friday. That also means new movies and popcorn. Well, Bollywood is kickstarting December with a bang in the form of 2 highly anticipated releases. Ranbir Kapoor's Animal and Vicky Kaushal's Sam Bahadur have hit the screens today. While Animal promises to be a violent flick driven by emotions, Sam Bahadur is a biographical war drama. Both movies have received rave reviews so far. All right, so this weekend can be actually cheerful. Lots of things to do, Pavitra, with 2 new releases this particular weekend. And of course, whole of December is more festive, so lots of things to enjoy. On that note, it's curtains down on this edition of Business Lunch. Thanks so much for tuning in.